Hey beautiful souls, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Sage, and this is Magnetize Official, where we go deep into twin flames, divine timing, and everything spiritual in between. Today we're doing a twin flame energy update and channeled reading for the collective, so grab your tea, get cozy, and let's see what wants to come through for you. So before we even flipped a single card, I kept getting the image of a meteor shower. It's strange because this actually connects to something personal. A few months back, a friend gifted me a little vial pendant with a tiny meteorite fragment inside it, and she told me it was for remembering you already have the fire you're looking for. And that phrase just came rushing back to me the second I sat down to film today. So, I feel like there's someone here who's being reminded that you're not waiting for a spark to be lit from the outside. You already are the spark. Some of you have been feeling really burnt out lately, like you've been giving so much energy outward toward the connection, toward the waiting, toward the wondering, and there's almost no fuel left over for yourself. And what I'm hearing is, come back to your own fire first. I feel like this reading is going to land for a very specific person today, and honestly, you'll probably know within the first minute or two if this is you. If it is, stick around, because I really do feel like there's something important coming through here. Okay, let's get into it. I'm starting today with a little energy centers card before we go into the full spread, and it's given me 3 phrases stacked on top of each other. I feel, I trust, I receive. The heart center says I feel. The solar plexus says I trust, and the crown says I receive. And something about that order feels really important for somebody watching right now. It's like there's a sequence being shown to you. First, you have to actually let yourself feel what's true. Then you have to trust it even without proof yet. And only after that does the receiving part get to happen. A lot of you have been trying to skip straight to the receiving. You want the reunion, you want the text, you want the sign. But Spirit is showing me that the feeling and the trusting have to come first, or the receiving won't actually land in a way that satisfies you. Something else came through before I even touched the cards, and it's the word static. Like radio static, that fuzzy in-between sound when a signal isn't quite tuned in yet. I feel like this is describing the exact stage a lot of you are in with your twin flame connection right now. You're getting little flickers of signal, a dream here, a sync number there. Maybe they crossed your mind out of nowhere, but it's not a clean, clear channel yet. And I want to say that's not a bad thing. That static usually means you're close to the frequency, not far from it. I also want to name something before we get into the cards, because I think it applies to a lot of you watching. There's a difference between a connection that's simply quiet because it's healing, and a connection that's gone quiet because it was never truly mutual to begin with. I know that's a hard thing to hear, and I'm not saying that to discourage anyone. I actually feel like most of you pulled to this video are in the first category, but I do feel Spirit wanting me to say it because part of today's message is about learning to tell the difference between sacred timing and self-abandonment, dressed up as patience. So hold that thought, because we're going to come back to it. One more thing I picked up on before we start pulling cards. A lot of you have been asking in your own private moments whether any of this is even real, whether the synchronicities mean anything, whether you're just pattern matching out of loneliness, whether this whole twin flame framework is something you've built up in your head to make sense of a connection that simply didn't work out. I want to honor that doubt instead of brushing past it, because I think real spiritual growth actually requires that kind of honest questioning. But what I'm hearing for the specific person this reading is landing for today is that the doubt itself is part of the excavation. You're not being shown these signs to torment you. You're being shown them because something in you already knows, and the doubt is just the part of you that's scared to fully believe it yet. So, let's pull the first few cards and see what's actually unraveling here. I'm drawing the Tower, the Nine of Swords reversed, and the Two of Cups. Okay, so the Tower is telling me something has already collapsed, or is in the process of collapsing, and honestly, for a lot of twin flame connections, that's not new information. I think a lot of you have already lived through your Tower moment, whether that was a separation, a falling out, a painful silence. But what's interesting is it's paired with the Nine of Swords reversed, which is the card of finally getting some relief from anxious, spiraling thoughts. So I feel like the worst of the mental anguish around this. The 2 a.m. overthinking, the did I ruin everything spiral, that's starting to lift for someone. And then the Two of Cups sitting right there next to it is telling me that underneath all of that collapse, there's still a real, mutual soul recognition happening. This isn't one-sided. Whatever has fallen apart on the surface hasn't touched what's happening underneath. I'm hearing the word excavation for this next part. Like something true is being dug out from underneath a lot of rubble. And with the Eight of Swords, I feel like you have been feeling trapped. Trapped by old stories about yourself. Trapped by fear of being played for a fool again. Trapped by not knowing if you're supposed to keep holding space or finally let go. But I don't think this card is telling you that you're actually stuck. I think it's telling you that you've been convinced you're stuck, which is different. And with the Queen of Swords showing up right after, there's this message of needing to see the situation with total clarity now, without the fog of hopium or fear clouding it. Not a cold clarity, a clean one. There's a boundary theme coming through really strongly right now, and I keep hearing the phrase, closing the open door. I feel like some of you have been leaving a door cracked open for this person, emotionally, energetically, maybe even literally, keeping a text thread alive just in case. And I feel spirit nudging you to close that door, not out of resentment, but out of self-honoring. And I want to be really clear. Closing the door doesn't mean closing yourself off from the connection ever coming back. It actually means the opposite. In twin flame dynamics specifically, I've noticed over and over that the moment someone stops leaving the door cracked and instead fully roots into their own life, that's usually exactly when movement starts happening on the other side. It's like your energy needs to stop leaking out through that crack so it can build up enough charge to actually reach them. Now let's talk about your twin flames side of things for a moment, because I am getting someone really specific here. With the King of Swords reversed and the Seven of Wands, I feel like your person has been in a very defended, very guarded headspace. This might be someone who intellectualizes their feelings instead of sitting with them, someone who might come across cold or distant, but underneath that is someone who is honestly a little overwhelmed by how much this connection has shaken their sense of control. The Seven of Wands makes me think they've actually been fighting something too. Maybe fighting the pull towards you. Maybe fighting other people's opinions about the connection. maybe fighting their own fear of being consumed by something this intense. I don't think the silence or distance from them is a rejection of you specifically. I think it's a rejection of how out of control this connection makes them feel. If you're someone who's been manifesting this person to soften, to stop running, to come back into alignment with their higher self, I really feel like that softening is already in motion, even if it's not visible yet. It just needs a little more time to work its way to the surface. And I want to gently say, you don't have to do anything to force that along. Sometimes we think if we just say the right prayer, journal the right affirmation, or find the perfect ritual, we can speed up someone else's inner timeline. But their softening isn't something you can manufacture from your end. Your only real job right now is to keep tending your own fire so that when they do finally turn around, they find someone who never dimmed her light waiting for them. I keep getting that you are in your Empress energy through all of this, even if it doesn't feel like it some days. Rooted, magnetic, a little quieter than usual, but not passive, more like someone gathering strength underground before anything visible happens above the surface. There's a real difference between someone who's given up and gone numb and someone who's gone quiet because they're rebuilding. I feel like a lot of you have been mistaken for the first when you're actually the second. With the 10 of Pentacles showing up here, there's a message about legacy, about this connection meaning something far bigger than just the two of you as individuals. Almost like this pairing was never only meant to be personal, it was meant to ripple outward into your families, your work, the people you'll eventually help once you've walked through this fire. And I feel like that's part of why this has been so hard. Twin flame connections that are meant to build something lasting almost always go through a stripping down phase first, because everything false has to be cleared out before something that's solid can be built. I'm hearing the words, the reset again for this part of the reading. It feels like a lot of you have been going through a kind of quiet exile lately. Not punishment, more like a timeout the universe has placed both of you in. Certain conversations paused, certain contact minimized, and I think this is happening so both of you can actually integrate the lessons from this connection, instead of just repeating the same cycle over and over without ever growing from it. I'm picking up on a divine feminine energy here who lost touch with her own inner compass for a while, possibly from over-focusing on the connection instead of her own becoming, and Spirit has really been working to course-correct that with the Justice card, rebalancing, recalibrating, making sure both people come back to this as whole individuals, not as two halves trying to complete each other. If that rebalancing is something you want to actively support, the simplest thing you can do is keep returning to your own grounded, radiant center, through movement, through quiet, through whatever settles your nervous system, instead of leaking energy chasing signs or answers. That alone starts to shift the frequency you're putting out into the connection. It doesn't need to be elaborate. Sometimes it's as small as putting your phone down for an evening, cooking a meal just for yourself, or spending 10 minutes outside without checking for a sign the entire time. Those small acts of coming home to yourself do more for this dynamic than any amount of analyzing ever could. I do want to circle back to that thing I mentioned earlier about telling the difference between sacred timing and self-abandonment, because I feel like it's important context for what's coming through in these last few cards. With the Four of Wands reversed and the Six of Swords, I'm getting a picture of a transition already quietly underway. The Four of Wands reversed can sometimes point to a delay around reunion or celebration, but paired with the Six of Swords, which is one of the clearest moving toward calmer waters cards in the whole deck, I feel like the delay isn't a denial. It's a crossing. You're literally in the boat right now, mid-crossing, and I know that in-between place can feel like nothing is happening. But movement on water is quiet. You don't feel the current the way you'd feel your feet on solid ground. For some of you, this crossing involves releasing certain expectations about what the reunion is even supposed to look like. I keep hearing, let go of the script. A lot of the anxiety I'm sensing isn't actually about whether the connection is real. Deep down, most of you already know it is. It's about whether it will unfold in the exact way you pictured it, and I feel spirit gently correcting that. The timeline you imagined, the way you thought the apology or the message or the reunion would happen, none of that was ever guaranteed. What was always true is the recognition between you. The form it takes is allowed to surprise you. I'm also picking up on some physical symptoms for a few of you. Restlessness in the chest, trouble sleeping through the night, waking up around 3 or 4 in the morning for no clear reason. If that's you, I don't think that's random. Energy work during a twin flame activation phase often shows up physically before it shows up in your circumstances, almost like your nervous system is being recalibrated to hold a higher frequency than it's used to. Grounding practices, time outside, drinking enough water. These sound simple, but they genuinely help your body keep pace with what's shifting energetically. You're not falling apart. You're being upgraded, and upgrades are uncomfortable by nature. Let's close this reading out with one final card, and I'm pulling from my Rumi Oracle deck for this. What do the stars want the Divine Feminine to know today? And it's such a beautiful pull. It says, what feels like an ending is only the sky rearranging itself before dawn. I love that so much, because it fits everything we've talked about today. This does feel like Phoenix energy to me. Something old genuinely has to burn all the way down before what's next can take shape. I've talked about this before as a kind of soul refinement where the relationship, or maybe just your attachment to how you thought it should look, gets melted down so that what's left is only what's actually real and lasting. This process can feel incredibly disorienting while you're in it, ungrounding even. But I really feel like the invitation today is to keep your footing, to not abandon yourself just to force an outcome faster, and to trust that whatever survives this refining fire is the part that was always meant to last. What's burning away right now was never the real thing anyway. I know a lot of you come to these readings hoping for a date, a name, a definite sign that says, this is it. They're coming back now. And I always want to be honest with you. That's not really how this works. And honestly, I'd be a little suspicious of anyone who claims they can hand you that with total certainty. What I can offer you is what's coming through energetically, and what's coming through today, over and over in every card and every image, is that the foundation underneath this connection is solid, even while the surface of it looks uncertain. That's worth something. Maybe not the exact something you were hoping for when you clicked on this video, but something real all the same. And if today's reading stirred something in you, I gently encourage you to sit with it, rather than immediately trying to decode every single detail into a literal prediction. These readings work best as a mirror, not a script. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own inner knowing above anything I say here, always. And I'll leave you with one more line from the guidebook because it felt too fitting not to share. This is not a warning, only an unveiling. You are being asked to release what has already served its purpose, so there's room for what is actually yours. You have already outgrown the version of this story that hurt you, even if part of you hasn't caught up to that truth yet. So that's where I'll leave today's reading. If anything landed for you, let me know in the comments. I always love reading through them after these more channeled videos. Sending you all so much love today. Trust the unraveling. Trust the static clearing into signal. And I'll see you in the next one.